Pregame.com.
Sunday, NFL action, Super Bowl. Yeah, Scott, I'm saying Super Bowl. I don't care whether we're not allowed to say it in Vegas or not. I'm going to run into the sports book and just yell Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl Sunday. We've got prop action here. I'm going to give you a couple props. Scott's going to give you a couple. I'm joined by Scott Spreitzer. Super Bowl week in Vegas. It's it's like Mardi Gras. The whole there's so many people come to town just for this weekend. And the beauty of the Super Bowl, Scott, to me, it's like one of my favorite events is the Kentucky Derby because everybody bets. They won't bet a horse race all year, but they'll bet the Kentucky Derby. And, you're dealing with a mutual pool. So the more money that's in the pool, the better it is for you. And it's dead money, in Kentucky Derby. You got a lot of dead money coming to Vegas this weekend to bet the Super Bowl because it's not just, are you going to bet the Giants or are you going to bet New England? You've got like 300 different props you can bet, and these guys are going to be putting money down that don't have any clue of what they're doing, and you can get some nice value.
It's crazy, and one of the guys that was really good at creating all these props and the talk is Jay Kornegay, over at the Hilton. And I remember back, he used to be the Imperial Palace, and I used to do a show there back in the day on Thursday nights. And Super Bowl Sunday, we usually had I think it was Dan Pastorini was the player that used to come to town. And we used to do a show with him on a Thursday night at the IP. We'd drag him over to the Stardust and do a show there on Saturday nights at the Stardust Hotel at the Racebook. We used to do those every week. And Super Bowl was great because you'd have all these people coming in. And they'd be plucking down their money on every single crate, in an outdoor Super Bowl, will the cloud be shaped like a cigar for more than 5 minutes? I mean, it was crazy. And I'm like, here's my card, give me a call. But used to have an absolute blast up and down the strip back then in Vegas. I still love it. What I tend to do, though, I don't play a lot of props for one thing because I think a lot of them are there for the sports book to grab your money. But what I'll try to do, and it's funny because in this particular segment, we're going to talk about two props. One of them kind of goes against what I'm saying here. But what I'll do more often than not, 90% of my plays, it doesn't matter who's winning. It doesn't matter how big the margin is as far as the score for my prop to come in. And I look for those with a fine-tooth comb. And we can usually find at least 3 or 4 that fall into that category. Now, the one that I'm going to start off with, I need a little help from one particular team, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, let's go ahead and start with it. Go ahead.
Well, the one that caught my eye right off the bat, that jumped off before there were pages of props last week, when they were on your computer screen, there was one particular book, and it was Ahmad Bradshaw's over-under of 58.5 yards rushing this week against New England. Now, we could get burned by playing this over on a couple of different situations. First of all, let's say he's so-so in the early going, and they give Brandon Jacobs a chance to get some carries. He steals a few carries away from you. Now, Ahmad Bradshaw has been the man in the playoffs for the Giants by far. Jacobs did run for 72 yards on 18 carries when they went up against New England in the regular season because Bradshaw was injured for that game. But when you break down the Patriots, you've got a team that's 6 straight opponents have had a running back rush for at least 60 yards against them. And the last time a running back didn't hit 60 against this New England team was when they played the hapless Colts 8 weeks ago. It's the last time a running back didn't get to 60. Past 6 games, I'm going to read my notes here. Last week, Ray Rice, 67 yards, 21 carries. 2 weeks ago, McGahee, 76 on 17. Regular season finale, C.J. Spiller, 60 on 13. The week before that, Reggie Bush, 113 yards on 22 carries. Roy Halu of Washington, 126 yards on 27 carries. That final that game they played in the regular season against Denver a couple of weeks before the season ended, McGahee and Ball both topped that 58-yard mark. They ran for 70 and 64. Tebow added 93. You had 3 runs. So anyway, and the reason I still like it for them to give up this yardage to Ahmad Bradshaw is because they have to help out so much in that rebuilt secondary where they're going against guys who wouldn't have been starting if everybody was healthy in the secondary. So there's a lot of zone defense being thrown at opponents, including the New York Giants, which means there's not guys to come out. They cannot afford to cheat up against the run. Now, the thing that's a little bit different for most props that I play, because I say I'll play on props where I don't care who's winning at the time or by the margin, the bottom line is I need New York to either be in the game in a close game or
have
be
the
leading
lead.
in this game, preferably leading in the game most of the way. But they cannot be down 17 points or 14 points in the third quarter, because then all of a sudden they're not running the ball with Ahmad Bradshaw or Brandon Jacobs. But this is one of those that I've been willing, and I did step out a little bit, pluck some money down, hoping the Giants would keep a closer lead, and then Bradshaw could get the majority of those carries.
Well, I can't disagree with you on that. No question New England's had problems against the run this year, and that's what they need to do. They need to establish that, and they want to keep Brady off the field too. So I can't disagree with you on that one. The first one I'm going to go with, I'm looking at the number of kick returns, and we've got the over-under on it is 6.5 kick returns. Now, I went back and looked at the two teams, and during the regular season, these two teams averaged 3 kick returns per game each. So that puts us at 6. Now, we're talking about kick returns. They got to literally come out of the end zone with the ball.
Right.
We're talking about the two teams involved are the New York Giants, the New England Patriots. Where do they play? The Giants, half of their games are in the Meadowlands. If you've ever been to the Meadowlands, I don't care if there's no breeze blowing at all, there's always still some kind of breeze there. So you're kicking, and then when you get into the second half of the season, you got cold weather, so the kicks aren't going as far. So you're going to have more kick, more in times.
Yeah.
In times is not a long distance kicker, so they would normally have more, and they still only average 3 kick returns per game. And with the New England Patriots, you're dealing another cold weather thing. We're kicking indoors. This is going to add distance to both of the the kickers on their kickoffs. I think we've got a good number. Now, like you just said about a situation, and this is something that was talked about Tuesday at the Tuesday meeting, it was a good point that was brought up. If it's a lopsided game and there's kickoffs, teams are more apt to run a ball out of the end zone if they're losing. So like you in this one, I don't want to see a rout, because that would hurt this prop. But I'm going to take the under 6.5 kick returns, because we are playing in a dome, and so often these numbers, when they're setting this stuff up, they're breaking it down on season averages, but they're not taking into consideration the particular matchup, locale, and everything else. They're just plugging in numbers because there's so many props that they're looking at.
And of course, they moved the kickoff location up from where it was in previous years by 5 yards. And the last time I saw Tynes kick, kind of an indoor game, was against Dallas, and he booted it through the end zone. So yeah, when they get indoors, there's a good chance that you're going to get some.
So that's my first prop. You've got another one for us?
And by the way, I was going to mention, on just speaking about those kind of kickoff props, I know I'm in agreement with Brian Leonard. I know the line's got kind of crazy, but we both like, there was a prop out there where the first kickoff resulted in a touchback. And it opened 120 at the particular site I caught it at, and I saw it go through the roof over the first couple of days. But the other prop that I was looking at is, will Eli Manning run for more than 2.5 yards at any point in this game? And I plucked my money down on yes, he will. Now, he didn't run against San Francisco, because San Francisco is a nasty brand of defense who's going to, they'll cheat up and protect against the pass, and they'll get after the quarterback, and they're not open to that kind of a game out of a guy who's not a great running quarterback. But New England is, because they do have to help out in the secondary on the backside, can't cheat up front, and that means they're more susceptible to giving up short passes to tight ends and running backs and things of that nature. And also, when the Giants do have a 3rd and long or a 2nd and long, and they are in a pass formation, and they do want to make that long pass and it's closed off, you're going to have a chance for Eli Manning to pull that ball down and take off with it, and he will do it. He's shown that he did it in the 2 games before the San Francisco game. He, I think, ran the ball 4 times against Atlanta, averaged, I think, 2.5 or 3 yards per carry in that one. So he will pull the ball down and run with it if he's going up against the defense that gives way to that, and that's what New England does. And so I went ahead and played
you
that
saw
over.
Joe Flacco had a big run against New England.
And Flacco's not a big athlete. I mean, he's good, but he's not,
I can't disagree with that one either. I'm going to mark that one down, get a couple dollars on it, and then I can bitch at you next week then if it doesn't get
That's
there.
what I'm here for.
Be like a customer,
Exactly.
The next one I've got, I'm going to stay on the theme of the kickers, and we're going to go with Lawrence Tynes. The over-under, this is one where you're actually getting plus 120 was the line here. So we're getting back on this one, because Lawrence Tynes is a guy that doesn't have as big a leg as the New England kicker, but they have tried 8 field goals with him in the postseason. He's made 6 of 8. The over-under in this game is 1.5 field goals for Lawrence Tynes. Now, let's stop and look for a second. They attempted 8 field goals. Where were the 3 games that the Giants played, their playoff games? They played a January game at the Meadowlands, which is not a fun place to kick. They went to Lambeau Field, and then they played rain-soaked Candlestick. If they got 8 attempts in those fields, weather conditions, we're playing indoors, which now you're going to add, 4 or 5 yards onto his range because you're indoors. I think he's going to get, the opportunities to make 2 field goals. I think this is an outstanding play.
I like it. I wanted to clarify something about and I think I said he ran for 2.5 yards against a carry against Atlanta. It was 6.5 yards per carry. He ran twice for 13 yards, ran for 10 yards on 4 carries against Green Bay. Just wanted to clarify that. But I agree with you on kicking indoors. I think everything that right now bets on the kicking game being good as opposed to the return game is the way to go to between these 2 teams in the Dome.
So that's my second prop for this week. You've got 2 of them from Scott, 2 of them from me. There's going to be more videos this week. It's, videos all week long. Brian Leonard's going to be in tomorrow with Vegas Runner. They're going to do a couple basketball videos, and then they're going to bring some props to the table too. So you've got Super Bowl coverage all week here. And another thing I want to mention, check out Gil Alexander's Betting Dork podcast. We did Super Bowl props with myself, Brian Leonard, Vegas Runner, Gil Alexander. You can check that out at Pregame Podcast. And that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week with more videos from Scott and me. And good luck. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Yes, NFL, I used your trademark name. It is the Super Bowl. It's a big thing in Vegas. If you're here in Vegas, none of the casinos are allowed to use the word Super Bowl. That's why I'm making fun of it because the NFL owns the rights to it. But, sorry.
I like what you're doing.
We'll see you guys. Enjoy the game.